Get in. Where you headed? All right? Good. That's gonna be about 25 minutes. Plenty of time. You ever had a close call? Like, almost died but didn't? Yeah? Makes you feel lucky, right? Like you got a second chance. Well, let me tell you about a guy who survived something he shouldn't have. Walked away when nobody thought he would. But when death came back for him a second time, his luck ran out. This is the story of Keith Palmer, London, England, March 22nd, 2017. Keith Palmer was a police officer, not a regular cop. He was a special constable, part of the Parliamentary and Diplomatic Protection Unit. Basically, he guarded important buildings, Parliament, embassy, high security location. Keith was 48 years old, married, had a daughter, been on the force for 15 years. Good guy, well-liked, did his job, went home. Nothing extraordinary, just steady, reliable. But here's the thing about Keith. He'd already survived something most people don't. 10 years earlier, 2007, Keith was on duty near the Houses of Parliament. There was a suspicious package. Someone called it in. Possible bomb. Standard procedure. Evacuate the area. Call the bomb squad. Wait, Keith was helping clear people out. Tourists, staff, everyone moving away from the package. Bomb squad arrive. They assess it. Controlled explosion. That's the plan. But something goes wrong. The device is real, and it's more volatile than they thought. It detonates early, before everyone's clear. The blast is massive. Shockwave, debris, chaos. Keith's thrown back, hits the ground hard, ears ringing, can't hear, can't see clearly. People are screaming, smoke everywhere. When the dust settles, Keith's alive. Cuts, bruises, possible concussion, but alive. 3 other officers near him weren't as lucky, seriously injured. One lost his hearing permanently. Another lost part of his leg. Keith walked away. Doctors called it a miracle. A few feet closer, he'd be dead. A slightly different angle. Same thing, but he survived. Keith took some time off, recovered, came back to work. His family was relieved. His daughter was young then. She almost lost her dad, but she didn't. Keith went back to his post. Same job, same location, because that's what he did. That's who he was. And for 10 years, nothing happened. Routine shifts. Tourists taking photos. Protesters making noise. Normal stuff. Keith probably thought his close call was behind him, that he'd used up his bad luck, that he was safe now. But fate had other plans. March 22nd, 2017, Wednesday afternoon. Keith's on duty. Outside the Palace of Westminster. That's where Parliament meets. It's a busy day. Tourists everywhere. School groups. People taking pictures of Big Ben. Keith standing at carriage gates. One of the entrances to the Parliament ground. He's unarmed. Special constables in the UK don't carry guns. Just a baton. A radio. That's it. Around 2:40 p.m., Keith hears some screaming from Westminster Bridge. That's the bridge right next to Parliament. He turns, looks. People are running, scattering. Then he sees it. A car, driving on the sidewalk, hitting people. Pedestrians, tourists, just mowing them down. The car's speeding, swerving, intentional. Keith grabs his radio, calls it in. Attack on Westminster Bridge. Vehicle ramming pedestrians. Multiple casualties. The car keeps going, crashes into the fence near Parliament, right at the edge of the ground. The driver gets out. He's holding knives, 2 of them, long, like kitchen knives. And he's running straight toward the Parliament entrance, straight toward Keith. Keith steps forward. He's the only one there, the only barrier between this guy and the building full of politicians. He doesn't have a gun, doesn't have backup. They're coming, but they're not there. It's just him. The attacker reaches him, swings the knife. Keith tries to block it, raises his arm. The knife cuts through his jacket, into his arm. Keith stumbles back, but he doesn't run. He's trained for You don't run. You hold the line. The attacker swings again. This time, Keith can't block it. The knife goes into his chest. Keith falls. The attacker keeps going, tries to get past him, into the gates. But armed officers are arriving now. They see what's happening. They shout, "Armed police! Drop the weapon!" The attacker doesn't stop. They shoot him multiple times. He goes down, dead. But Keith's on the ground too. Bleeding, chest wound, serious. Paramedics rush over. They're trying to save him. CPR, pressure on the wound, calling for transport. But it's bad. Keith's losing too much blood. The knife hit something vital. Lung, maybe heart. It's hard to tell in the chaos. They get him to the ambulance, rush him to the hospital, but Keith doesn't make it. He's pronounced dead at the hospital. 3:15 p.m., 48 years old, 15 years on the force, survived a bombing in 2007, killed by a knife in 2017. The attacker's name was Khalid Massoud, 52 years old, British citizen, radicalized. He'd planned this, rented the car that morning, drove to Westminster, deliberately drove on the sidewalk, tried to get into Parliament, killed 5 people total, 4 on the bridge, Keith at the gate, injured 50 more. It was a terrorist attack. ISIS claimed responsibility later, though Massoud acted alone. The UK went into mourning, flags at half-mast, tributes poured in. Keith Palmer became a symbol, the officer who stood his ground, who didn't run, who gave his life protecting others. His family was devastated. His wife, his daughter, she was a teenager now, lost her dad. The same dad who'd almost died 10 years earlier, who'd survived then, but not this time. At Keith's funeral, thousands attended, officers from across the country, politicians, citizens. Prime Minister Theresa May gave a speech. PC Keith Palmer was every inch a hero. He died doing his duty, protecting others. We will never forget him. Keith was posthumously awarded the George Medal, one of the highest honors for bravery, but his family would have traded all of it just to have him back. So what are the theories here? Well, there's no mystery about what happened. It's all documented. Security footage, witnesses, the whole thing. Massoud planned an attack, executed it, killed people, was killed by police. Keith was in the wrong place at the wrong time. Or, depending on how you look at it, the right place. Because if Keith hadn't been there, Massoud might have gotten inside, might have killed more people, politicians, staff, visitors. Keith stopped him with his life. But people have asked, should Keith have been armed? He was guarding one of the most important buildings in the country, and he had a baton. After the attack, there was a big debate. Should all officers guarding Parliament carry guns? Some said yes. If Keith had a gun, he'd be alive. He could have stopped Massoud from a distance. Others said no. Arming every officer escalates things, creates more risk. The debate's still going, but it doesn't bring Keith back. There's also the question of the 2007 bombing. Did surviving that make Keith overconfident? Did he think he was invincible? Or did it make him more cautious, more aware of danger? We'll never know, but I think about it. Keith survived something that should have killed him, walked away when others didn't. And then, 10 years later, he's put in another life or death situation. And this time, he doesn't walk away. Is that fate? Bad luck? Just the odds catching up? Or was Keith always meant to be there, in that moment, stopping that attack? Some people believe in destiny, that everything happens for a reason, that Keith survived in 2007 because he needed to be there in 2017, to save those people in Parliament. I don't know if I believe that, but I know this. Keith had a choice. When Massoud ran at him with those knives, he could have stepped aside, radioed for help, let the armed officers handle it. Nobody would have blamed him, but he didn't. He stood there, faced a man with knives, unarmed, because that was his job, that was his duty, and it cost him everything. There's something noble in something tragic, but noble. Keith knew the risks. He'd almost died before. He knew how fragile life was, but he still showed up, still did the work, because someone has to. Someone has to stand between the innocent and the dangerous. And that day, it was Keith. The last thing Keith probably thought was that he'd already beaten death once, that he'd survived the impossible, that he was one of the lucky ones. But luck runs out, and sometime, the second time, there's no miracle. You know what I think about when I hear Keith's story? How precious every moment is. Keith survived in 2007, got 10 more years with his family, his daughter, his wife. 10 years he wouldn't have had. Maybe that's the real gift. Not that he survived forever, but that he got that extra time, Time to see his daughter grow up a little more. Time to live, to love, to matter. And when his time came, he spent it doing something that mattered, protecting people, saving lives. Not everyone gets to go out like that. Most of us will die in a hospital bed, old, sick, fading away. Keith went out a hero. That doesn't make it fair, doesn't make it right. His family still lost him too soon. But if you're going to go, maybe that's the way. Doing something that matters, standing for something, not running, not hiding, just standing your ground, even when you know you might not survive. That's courage, that's honor, and that's what Keith Palmer showed the world. Twice death came for him. Once he escaped, the second time he didn't, but he faced it head on, and that's more than most of us can say. If this story moved you, hit that like button, subscribe for more stories of courage and tragedy, and comment below. Do you think Keith was destined to be there that day? Or was it just terrible luck? Let me know what you think. All right, here's your stop. Thanks for riding with me. Honor the people who stand between us and danger. They don't always make it home. I'll keep driving.